She introduced me as just a friend. I'd paid for the catered bar, bought her dress, picked up her mother from the airport, and parked 3 blocks away in the rain so the valet could focus on her VIPs. And when the music died for a toast, and she pulled me into that little circle of influencers and ex-colleagues, that's what she said. "This is Evan. He's just a friend." It landed like a punch I didn't see coming. Even the bartender flinched. But I didn't react. I smiled, said pleasure, and blended into the group like nothing happened. I knew better than to make a scene. The room smelled like champagne and fresh money. Everyone was somebody. Models, tech founders, 2 people I recognized from streaming platforms. All standing under soft lights in a downtown penthouse like the air itself cost a subscription fee. That's when he walked over. Tall, expensive smile. The kind of guy who always looks like he just stepped out of a private jet, even if he took the subway. Marcus, her ex. He clapped a hand on my shoulder like we were old friends. "He still doesn't know, does he?" he said, grinning at her like it was an inside joke they'd been rehearsing for years. Silence. She laughed too quickly, too loudly. "Don't start, Marcus." "No, seriously." He turned back to me. "You still think you're the only one?" I didn't answer, just watched him. Every move he made was rehearsed, like he'd already won. And maybe he thought he had. I excused myself to the balcony. Cold air. Empty glass. Heart pounding, but my face didn't change. I stood out there for 20 minutes, watching the skyline, letting the noise inside fade into muffled arrogance. She didn't follow. The truth is, I already suspected. I'd seen the signs, weekend work trips that didn't add up, missed calls, new passwords. But suspicion is a whisper. That moment, that was the scream. I didn't go back in. I called a car, tipped the valet extra to get her mom's car moved closer, then disappeared down the elevator without a word. Back at the apartment, ours, but only on paper, I packed 1 bag. Essentials only. Laptop, ID, cash, hard drive. I'd planned for this. In the storage unit 2 miles away, I kept a secondary stash, documents, spare cards, even a burner phone. I wasn't stupid. I'd seen enough cracks to know I needed an exit plan. The next morning, she texted like nothing happened. "You okay? You left early." I didn't respond. At noon, she called. I watched it ring. 2 days later, she came home to an empty closet and a legal envelope on the kitchen counter. She still thought I'd been paying the lease. What she didn't know was that 6 weeks earlier, I'd had the apartment transferred into an LLC in my name only, quietly, legally. I sold it the morning after the party. She had 5 days to vacate. She called then, furious, cursing. I answered calmly. "You made your choice in front of 50 people. I made mine in silence." Click. I wasn't out for revenge. Not yet. I was collecting, watching. Her ex's smirk played on repeat in my head, but I didn't move on emotion. I needed leverage. I dug. Emails, old messages, shared folders she never thought to delete. There it was, photos, dated, time-stamped, 6 weeks after we'd gone exclusive. Him. Her. A trip to Paris I paid for. One I couldn't attend because of a work emergency. He was there. And that was just the start. I found 5 others. Some were just flings. Others lasted longer. One of them? Her boss. That explained the promotion she never told me about. The one she celebrated with her sister, not me. I tracked timelines. Connections. Patterns. It was methodical. Almost boring. But betrayal always leaves a breadcrumb trail if you know where to look. Then I found something else. She was embezzling. Small at first. Then bigger. Her department's budget reports didn't match company filings. I cross-referenced them against her personal Venmo transactions. She'd been reimbursing herself for non-existent expenses, then routing the funds to her ex under fake consulting invoices. The shell company was registered to Marcus. She'd been helping him launder startup capital through her employer. That changed everything. I wasn't just a fool. I was the perfect cover, steady, reliable, invisible. Just a friend who wouldn't ask questions. I hired a forensic accountant. Cost me a chunk, but worth every cent. Within 10 days, I had a full report. Marcus's shell corp was tied to 2 others. One in the Caymans, one in Nevada. Her name showed up on 3 of the filings, once as a silent partner, once as a financial officer, and once, sloppily, under her maiden name. She wasn't just cheating. She was committing federal crimes. And she thought I was the safe one. The fool who'd never dig. I didn't go to the police. Not yet. People like her don't feel consequences from noise. They feel it when the doors close quietly and there's no one left to call. So I started phase 2. I filed the paperwork under an alias, acquiring a 40% stake in her employer's largest supplier. The CEO owed me a favor, an old college debt I'd never called in. Until now. Once secured, I placed a hold on their monthly inventory shipments. Nothing overt. Just a compliance delay, pending investigation into invoice discrepancies. 3 weeks later, her company was bleeding. She sent out internal memos begging for patience. They planned a pivot strategy, temporary cuts, unforeseen supplier disruptions. They blamed the economy, the war, logistics. They never suspected me. She emailed me once, late at night. "Evan, please, can we talk? I think I made a mistake." I didn't respond. Not yet. 3 days after her email, she showed up at my office. She shouldn't have known where it was. I used a shell company and a different name, but people like her always find a crack to squeeze through. She waited in the lobby, heels tapping, dressed like it was still her world. It wasn't. I let her wait 45 minutes before I buzzed her in. She walked in slow, cautious, like I might still be the man she could manipulate. "I just want to talk," she said. I leaned back, silent. She sat across from me, looking at the office like it didn't make sense. The view, the furniture, the assistant who brought her tea. I wasn't supposed to be here. Not this version of me. "You've changed," she finally said. I nodded once. "That's what happens when people try to erase you." She shifted. "I made a mistake. Marcus, he's not. He was never." "Don't," I said. "Don't insult both of us." She went quiet. Good. Then I opened a folder and slid it across the desk. The accountant's report. Shell companies. False invoices. Her emails. Her signature. She paled. "This is blackmail," she whispered. "No," I said. "This is a warning." She looked up, jaw set. "What do you want?" I smiled. "That question. The one that always comes too late. I want silence. From you. Forever. I want your resignation from the company by Friday. Quiet. No HR scandal. No payout. Just gone." She blinked. "You don't have that kind of power." I picked up my phone and called her CFO. "Peter," I said. "The audit we discussed, schedule it for next week. I'll have our team send over the preliminary findings." She watched, mouth open. I hung up. "You're bluffing." I tapped the folder. "Am I?" She opened it fully this time. Her hands trembled. There were photos, texts, flight itineraries paid through company cards. Enough to bring down not just her, but half her department. She stared at the final page, her maiden name, signature, and a direct deposit from Marcus's LLC dated 3 months prior. Her voice cracked. "Why are you doing this?" I looked her dead in the eye. "Because you made me invisible. And now I own your reflection." Friday came. She resigned. Internal memo. Pursuing other opportunities. No one asked questions. No farewell party. Marcus tried to play hardball. He emailed me. Poorly worded legal threats, accusations. I sent him one response. An Excel file with his offshore routing numbers and a list of federal agencies CC'd. He went silent. Deleted his socials. Moved cities. But I wasn't done. A month later, I acquired the domain name of the startup they were planning to launch together. Bought it out from under them during registration. Then I purchased the trademark. Filed it in Europe and Asia. Then I published everything. A white paper detailing the fraud. Public, but clinical. No names. Just facts. The kind of thing investors stumble on during due diligence. Her LinkedIn went dark within a week. He filed for bankruptcy within 2 months. And me? I disappeared again. No headlines. No applause. Just precision. People ask why I didn't go to the police. Why I didn't blow it all up. But you don't shoot someone already drowning. You take away the rope they thought would save them. And you watch. Quiet. Controlled. Next week, I fly to Zurich. New investment deal. New alias. But before I left, I made one final move. I sent her a small package. No note. No return address. Inside was a USB. Encrypted. Labeled. Still think I don't know? Zurich was clean, cold, efficient. Exactly the kind of place people disappear into when they're done being sentimental. I stayed in a quiet apartment in Enge, overlooking the lake, blending in like I always did. No headlines. No loose ends. She never opened the USB. Or maybe she did, and just never replied. Either way, it didn't matter. The damage was irreversible. Not from what I did, but from what they built on lies and signatures. It all collapsed under its own weight. But then something strange happened. 6 weeks into the Zurich deal, I got a message routed through a private server I hadn't touched since the first days of the fallout. Anonymous sender. Encrypted. But the IP signature? LA. The message was simple. You should have finished it. He didn't. Attached was a photo of Marcus, grinning again, this time in Dubai. A new startup. New investors. Same shell playbook, just rewritten under a different name. And she, my wife, was there too. Hair dyed. New alias. Same smirk. I stared at the screen for a long time. Not angry. Not surprised. Just disappointed I hadn't driven the knife deep enough. They were rebuilding. So I rebuilt, too. I rerouted funds. Activated a dormant contact in the Gulf who owed me a favor. He'd worked compliance for a hedge firm that Marcus once tried to scam. Still owed me for bailing him out of a tax probe 3 years ago. He got me what I needed. Investor lists. Legal contracts. New bank connections. A line of fake developers on the payroll. All ghost employees. Classic Marcus. He never learned. And that was his mistake. I didn't go public. I went upstream. I traced one of the investors to a pension fund in Boston. Quiet people. Risk-averse. I met them for dinner. Talked about software automation. Mentioned Marcus's name in passing. 2 weeks later, they froze the funding. Then I pulled the same move on the second largest backer. Through a shell LLC I controlled, I offered to buy out their other startup equity at a premium. On one condition. Divest from Marcus's project. They took the deal. Fast. Within a month, his runway dried up. No layoffs. No scandal. Just a silent freeze. And once again, she was on the wrong end of a closed door. Just like I'd planned. Except this time, I didn't walk away. I left a trail. One Marcus couldn't trace. But she could. A whisper from an old investor. A call that dropped too soon. A forwarded email with no signature, just a subject line. You picked the wrong pawn again. I wanted her to know it was me. I wanted her to sit in the silence and understand that this wasn't about love anymore. It was about legacy. Because betrayal is loud, but justice is patient. And me? I never stopped watching. Not even now.